Welcome to another video from Cardboard East. My name is Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. Welcome to another video of East versus West. And today we're gonna do Shinjuku versus Shinjuku. Which one wins? Now, in this video, I'm gonna go over all the components and show how they all differ. I'm also gonna talk about how to play the game, and then I'll give you my final thoughts and impressions, as well as my review of Shinjuku itself, regardless of which edition it was. But first, if you like what you see here and you wanna see more of Cardboard East, please like and subscribe. It really, really helps the channel grow. If you want to help the channel grow even more, please consider joining our Patreon, where we have special tiers allow you to have your name in all our videos, get monthly free board games. It's part of a raffle, and you also have access to videos every week where I talk about and share my thoughts about all these games and where I am and how my changes have changed over time. But now, on to the show! Welcome to Shinjuku. What is Shinjuku? Shinjuku is the largest train station in Tokyo, and one amazing game. I'm going to teach you how to play with the original Japanese version, and then we're going to do a comparison video. Welcome to Shinjuku. This is the game fully set up here. You may not be able to see him, but Godzilla is right here, and here he is, this cute little itty bitty Godzilla. Look at his big tail. We're not bad at shaming. Your tail is natural for your shape. Now, there is a lot going on in this game, despite how few components there are. So we're gonna go ahead and break this down just a little bit. Every player is gonna get a player shield. And if you look here, this tells you a breakdown of the entire game. I have translated this on my own. Someone translated this and I've just printed them out here, so it's a little bit easier, and I'll be going using this for the rules explanation. Players will also be getting 3 department stores. They'll also be getting 8 shop tokens, clothing, books, electronics, and food. Also, they'll be getting tracks, which will be laying all over Tokyo. One lucky player will be getting this. This is the start player card because there will be equal turns in this game. I have sleeved mine because it has the same back as the deck, so that's why it's just a little bit easier to find. Shinjuku is a game where you are fighting over victory points. To get victory points, you need to collect sets. Kind of like Tigers and Euphrates, you want complete sets and you want as many of them as possible. Your sets are going to be your customers, and there are 4 customers that match each of the stores. So clothing, people who want video games or electronics, people who want to eat, and people who want to read books. But be careful, there are 2 kinds of customers. Or should I say 2 kinds of customer tokens. So the white one here is a single, and this gold one here is a double. And you can see that little 2 there on the double token. So obviously you want to go for the doubles because they count as 2 of these tokens and can help you get more sets much faster. Also, these customers are also very important, and these are wild. They just go crazy in Tokyo. No, they count as any type of customer, be it clothing, video games, books, or food. So the whole game revolves around collecting as many customers as you can, fulfilling as many sets as you can, and you're going to be placing your customer tokens behind your player shield, so that way no one can see which customer you're going to be going for. Now, your player shield does have an imaginary company, so each different player color will have a different company logo. Now, the best way to get you into the game is I'm just going to walk you through what a turn looks like. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at this far right card here. And this one says Suganami W3. And I'm going to take the tokens that are on here and add them to Suganami W3. If you have trouble finding them, they have this little W here. That means west, and then 3. And that's also highlighted here where that area is on the map. So we're going to take these 2 tokens and then put them here in Suganami. I like to stack them, and it's a little bit easier. Then you're going to take this card and add it to your hand of cards. Ta-da! Next, you're going to refresh the queue, and you're going to slide all these cards down, flip over the next card, and then you're going to add customers to the queue. Now, how many customers? If you look here, this says 2. This one, if these disappear, then you'll add 3. And if they all disappear, down to 8, even though I've never seen that happen. So right now, we're going to take 2 customers out of our trusty little bag here. You stick your hand in, shuffle it around, and then, oh, look at that. So now we have 1 video game, and then we have 1 rice. Now, what's important to notice is that these are 4 cards, one for each of the resources. So that means that anytime you draw another card, another customer out, they're always going to, and it's a video game, he's always going to go here. If it's rice, it's always going to go here. But later on, that can mix and match. So maybe all the books are here, all the rice is here, all the video games are here, and all the clothing's here. It's just a one type of customer per card. Next, you're going to look at the festival, and then you're going to move the festival anywhere you want, and it has to be adjacent. So right now, the festival is in Edogawa, and I want to put the festival maybe in Koto. And we'll talk about why you want to do that in just a little bit. Then what you may want to do is move the kaiju. But however, the kaiju is still in Tokyo Bay, so the kaiju is going to stay there. Then the most important thing you're going to do is take 2 actions. Now, there are a lot of different actions that you can take in the game, but you can only take 2 per turn. And you can even take the same action twice. Once you finish your turn, you're going to go to the next player to your left, and you're going to go in clockwise order and keep going and going and going until the end of the game. So let's take a look at the different actions that you can do in the game. First, let's look at a map really quickly, and I want to break this map down. Here, this is Meguro. This is the Meguro district here as outlined here. Now, these black and white stripes are the track, and that's where you're going to place these tracks here. 1 wooden piece per lane. You're not going to put multiple wooden pieces here, just one will do. Also, if you notice that there are 2 types of hexagons here, and these are where you're going to build your stores. You could build a store here on the little green one. The big hexagon, you could also build a store. But the key difference is that the big hexagon can be upgraded to a department store, in which case you'll put your department store there. The department store can never go onto the small green hex, so you always want to be careful where you place your store and where you can upgrade to a department store. The first action that you could do is to open. What does that mean? You open a store. First, you're going to take a card from your hand. I have a Shibuya card here, so I'm going to take this card and put it into the discard pile out of my hand. Then I could take any store I want and place it into Shibuya. I'm going to take this video game one and place it right here in the bigger hex. The second action you could take is expand, and that means that you could lay track down. You could take 1 track here and place it anywhere you want. It doesn't even have to be next to a store. It could be really, really far away on the edge of the map. But you're gonna take your track and place it anywhere you want to. Let's say I want to take my track and place it here. Now, there is a special twist to the expand action. So the first track is always free. But if you want to lay a second track, you have to discard a card. So in order to discard a card, well, you got to look at this track and see where it ends. Well, this one ends in Setagaya, and this other one ends in Shibuya. So if I discard a Setagaya card from my hand, well, then I can add another track to the end of this track. And I can either put it here, 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 or here. So let's say I'm going to place mine here, move it all around. Now, even though I discarded a Setagaya district, and even though this is Setagaya, I don't have to build that second track here. So again, 1 track is free. The second track costs a card. Now, as you may have noticed, you've been discarding cards from your hand to take actions. Well, that's why the third action that you could take is income. Income is quite simple. You simply just draw cards from the top of the deck and add it to your hand. You draw up to 4 cards. If you already have 4, well, then you just draw 1 more card. Easy peasy. But I must warn you that as soon as you take an income action, your turn is over. So if your first action is income, you're not taking the second action. But you can't take a 1 action, and then your second action, you can take income. And I strongly recommend you do that. The fourth kind of action you could do is you can upgrade a store to a department store. So let's say I wanted to upgrade this store into a department store. Well, I'll have to do a few things. First, I'll need to discard a card that matches that district. So that's Shibuya, I discard a Shibuya card. 2, I'll also have to discard a customer that I already own. So I have to match this one, so that's a video game customer. I have to need to get rid of this video game customer. I'm gonna take this and add it to the queue. So you can see here, this is already shirts, this is rice. Well, I'm gonna take this one, put it here, and now this one is video games. And once I've discarded a customer and a card that match this store, well, then I will remove that store and add my department store, which is a definite thing that you want to do. sooner the better. Now, in addition to doing all of that, your reward for building a department store is also you get to take the next stack of bonus tokens here. So this is the next one. So I'm going to take these 3. And remember that these are customers that you could put behind your shield, and they are wild customers. So they could act as any of the types of customers, helping you complete more sets. Now, the 5th and final type of action, but also the most important action, is the move action. And this is where the pick up and deliver aspect of the game comes into play. Now, over here, you'll see this is Koto District. The first thing I need to do is I need to discard a Koto card. I'll take this card from my hand and put it into the discard pile. Then I'm going to take every single customer token that's in Koto and pick it up into my hand. Then, in Mancala style fashion, I'm going to take these tokens and then drop them along any path that I want. So let's say I want to go to this department store of mine. Well, I have to start here at the Koto station. Now, that's my opponent's store, but I still must give it to them. Now, I do have a double shirt. I don't want to give them that double shirt. I'll give them a single shirt. Take that single shirt, put it on there. Move right along. That's a rice one. I have to have a rice token there. That's mine. I put it on here. Then I go to my department store. I can put any token I want onto that department store. The department stores have all the stores. Yay. I'm going to take this double shirt, put it there. Moving right along. I move along this track. Oh, that is my opponent's store. They get this token. And then moving right along, go back to my department store. I'm going to give myself this double video game token. That goes here. I do have some tokens left over, and that's going to stay in Shibuya District. I'm just going to place it here on the map. Then I'm going to pick up all of the customers that I delivered to my stations. And on top of that, my opponent is going to pick up all the customers that I delivered to their stations. Good for them. Now, one extra bonus is that because I used my opponent's track, and you can use any opponent's track, no problem whatsoever. But because I do that, they get a free income action. So that means the orange player can draw up to 4 cards, or if they have 4 cards, they could draw 1 card. While I have to pay nothing, I am making my opponent benefit from my action. And that is how you pick up and deliver. Now, you may have noticed that you're discarding cards all the time, and the cards that you're discarding have to be at specific districts and locations. So what do? If you don't have those cards? Well, you can also use a wild. And this is where the festival comes into play. Wherever the festival is, let's say the festival is here in Koto, well, that means that all the Koto cards are now wild. And that means they could be anywhere you want to. In addition to that, anywhere that you have a department store. So this department store is in Shibuya. I have a Shibuya card. This Shibuya card is now wild as well. So the festival makes that card wild, your department store makes that card wild, and any 3 cards you discard from your hand are wild. So there is some flexibility in the game. Now, gameplay is going to continue until all the customers are out of the bag. Once all the customers are out of this bag, and then they're going to be on here in the queue. And then once all the queue cards have been removed that have customers, and once that happens, and that triggers the end game. So now the end game is triggered, and then you have equal turns. And remember, that's why you have this card to help you remind who the first player was. All the players will have equal turns, and then you calculate your final score, and whoever has the most points wins Shinjuku. So now we've finally gotten to scoring. You're going to take your player's shield and reveal all of the customers that you've collected throughout the course of the game. And then you're going to count up how many sets you have. So see, these are 2 are doubles. So now you have 2 sets of 4. This is another set of 4. And down here, you have 2 sets of 3. So each set of 4 that you have will be 10 points. Each set of 3 that you have will be worth 6 points. And then you'll have 3 points for a set of 2, and then 1 point for, just a lone one there. Whoever has the highest score wins Shinjuku. Now, I do want to mention that there is another layer to the game here. If you notice here on some cards, it'll show you where the department store hexes are located. That means this district does not have a department store location for you. Also, if you look down here, this will show you that this location has 4 cards in the deck. This has 3 cards in the deck. And this will give you an idea of how often this card will appear, because that's kind of important, because if this is going to be a wild card for you, that means that there's 2 more cards that could appear in the deck to be wild. But Jay, when is Godzilla coming into the game? Ah! Yes, I know, he's very important. Well, he'll come into the game once the draw deck has been depleted, and then you're going to shuffle up your discard deck, create a new draw deck, and then now Godzilla will move. So after you move the festival, you can move Godzilla. When he goes into a district, all the customers that are in that district will go to an adjacent district of your choice. In addition to that, because Godzilla is here in Magoto, all the stations and trains passing through this district cannot work. So now green cannot use this track. Now that is Shinjuku, but not to be outdone, there is a new Shinjuku that has arrived. This is the original Japanese release, and this is the Italian release from Studio Supernova. How do they compare? Well, let's take a look inside, but you can see right away on the box, Shinjuku, the Italian version, is a much thicker box, whereas the Japanese version, as expected, is a much leaner box, and you can even fit that one inside the Italian version. The Japanese version does come with a nice A4 or letter size colored rulebook, and this one is very, very clear and very easy to understand. I do have an English translation of this. I cannot read Japanese, but I was very happy with this one. There weren't any ambiguities. Everything answered my questions very well. Now, the Italian version has this giant sized one that makes you feel like you're reading a newspaper. It's also very, very clear as well. It gives a few more examples, a lot more examples, including like a game walkthrough to help you get the idea of the game. Now, here we have the Japanese map. As you've seen here, you have the districts north, south, east, west, and different colors. You also have the S4, S2, S3, S5 to kind of help players find those locations. And then here is the Italian map. Now, the Italian map is a little bit cleaner and starker with the different colors here, so they're not different shades of blue. Also, the track is a little bit leaner in color, and it's a little bit more easy to distinguish. Also, please notice that the stations or the store locations go from circle to square. So this way you know that this one is department and this one is only a store. Now, a fun little note as well is that they also named where these train stations are. This is Oimachi Station. This is where I usually stay when I go to Tokyo Game Market. Now, that's a nice little flavor that they didn't have to add, but I think it's really cool that they added that little tidbit there. Also, if you notice here that they got rid of the dot system, so instead of 2 dots telling you that this district has 2 cards, they now have 2 cards and the number 2 to let you know that there are 2 cards. Over here in Minato, you can see that this is 4 cards for Minato. Now, you may be asking why they went from circles to squares from hexagons, and that's because the stores are now much bigger and they fit into the circles, and then the department stores are looking like stamps and they fit here into the square. So it's very, very clear what can go there and what can't. Now, I do want to compare these, that the new department stores are a lot taller than the original department stores. However, all the department stores look like this shape. They just have a different player color. And so I'd really miss the fact that you have the unique shaped department stores from the original Japanese one. I thought this was a nice little touch that they didn't have to do, but I was kind of glad they had that distinction. But I must admit that going from this size to this size for the stores is a real big improvement. Looking at the stores a little more closely, you can see these are the old stores, and then here are the new stores, where they've kind of gotten rid of the yellow player color and opted for a dark blue, and this pink kind of became a purple. I am sad that the video game controller, the Super Nintendo controller, changed into a Thunderbolt, and that's a little disappointing. But this is a big problem that I want to mention here. Do you see this? Do you know what that is? I can't tell what that is. It's incredibly difficult to read. This is a book. For some reason, printing white on top of the yellow was decided, and it's really bad. Someone, bless their heart, printed out these little stickers on BGG, and so they put the black onto the yellow, and it makes it much, much easier to read. In the Italian version, they got rid of that and just got rid of that player color, so now it's no longer a problem. But the stores weren't the only things that were upgraded. What was also upgraded were the tracks. So here are the original track from the Japanese version, and then here are the track from the Italian version, much, much bigger. And when you place them onto the board, it's really apparent what color that is, and it takes up much more space as well. So I do like the chunkier bits of the Italian version more. But perhaps the biggest difference is that in the original Japanese version, you had this festival and players are constantly moving it around, trying to fight over where they can get the festival so that way they have control over their wild cards. In the Italian version, they replaced this with CEOs. So now every company has a CEO, and the CEO drives a car because they don't take the train. And then you, and only you, control your CEO. So that way your CEO can go district to district wherever you want to, and then this district is wild for you and only you. Everyone that I know that's played the games, or both versions of the games, definitely prefer the CEO because you definitely get a little bit more control. Now, the Japanese release also had this nice Godzilla with this big monstrous tail, and the Italian version has a cute Godzilla with this cute little eye, and it's double-sided, so he's looking no matter which side you look at him. And he has nice little spikes on his back, just like the Japanese version. Except he has spikes now on his head. And his tail, it's not that big. Let's also talk about player shields. So you can see the Japanese version has this nice big player shield, and it can be quite sturdy because the wing part is quite long. The Italian version is much shorter in size, as you can see here. It's much shorter in size, and the side panels of the wings of it are quite short, so therefore it's not as stable. Now, both player shields do come with information on the backs of them. Now, let's look at the player cards here. The new Italian version has a nice linen finish to the cards. The Japanese version does not. But the Italian version also has a kaiju card, meaning so instead of having the deck run out and then the kaiju enters the game, this will be randomly shuffled into the second half of the deck, and then when it appears, the kaiju enters Tokyo. So that way, the Godzilla will enter Tokyo much faster, which everybody wants. But looking now at the front ends of the cards, you can see here that it's very, very different. So now this is a much paler look to it. You can see that the dots have disappeared and been replaced with this. There is no E6, E4, E5 system. However, it does point out the stations that are in that place and where it is. You also have the names that appear here in the top left-hand corner. That keeps you a little bit easier for you to find. Let's also talk about the bonus tokens. These are the original Japanese versions of the bonus tokens. They are double-sided. Now, these are the Italian versions, and they are black on white, but unfortunately, they are not double-sided. Let's compare the bags. So the original Japanese release has a nice big black bag, and the Italian release has a nice small white bag. Now, this one has a nice little cloth finish. We're gonna go a little bit right into it. This one is a lot sturdier, and you can see that it's the stitching is a little bit closer. Now, looking into the tokens themselves, you can see that this one, again, keeps that same system of the white and gold. However, now they have this black on it instead of the white, so it's a little bit easier to read, but they are not double-sided, especially which is a little bit unfortunate compared to the original release. Now, the original release does have the gold here, and you can see that it's not as tall and not as thick. And also, well, they're just falling out of my hands, but they're pretty much the same. I mean, these are two different versions. They're pretty much the same, except now you could identify which one is which. These, I think that the black and the white, well, pick your poison, but it is nice that the Japanese version has double-sided tokens. Now, earlier this year, I said that Shinjuku was my favorite game of 2024. And that it's still true. Out of all the games that have been released this year, I think Shinjuku is still my favorite game. Now, that is the Japanese version that I played. This was originally a print and play, then it became a Japanese title, and now it is going to be an Italian title by Studio Supernova. Now, I love all of these versions. I've never played the PnP. So the question is, which one do I like more? And I gotta tell you, Italia wins. This Italian version is so good. And there are some interesting decisions that were made, and I'll go into that about why I think they were better. So yes, if you don't want to watch the rest of this video, just know that I like the Italian version more, and then that's it. You can just stop watching and you don't have to listen to me talk. Thank you for staying. I think it means so much to know that people are there for you. Thank you. But I will say that the biggest complaint, the main complaint that I had with the Japanese version was that you had white on the yellow components, and it was incredibly difficult to see and read. Now, someone, bless their soul, someone on BGG released a file and uploaded a file that had the yellow tokens with the black font on them, and you could just print them out on sticker paper and then stick them onto the components. I did that, and oh man, it changed the game night and day. Now that was probably my biggest complaint of the Japanese release. Change that, and I think I've changed it, it's so much better, so much better. Also, changing the fireworks that all the players control into your own personal CEO, which you personally control and no one else, is such a subtle difference, but it allows you so much more control. No one's like pushing something away. You're not having this weird tug of war that happens magically to land where you need it to be. Instead, it's the CEO where it is always where you need to be most of the time. And it just made the game flow so much smoother. Also, the map and the UI upgrades have all been changed to the better. The board is a lot easier to read. And just having the different colors and components there and the towers, how they're all changed, just gives it a cleaner look. And it's a little bit easier to read. Not that the first one was difficult to read by any means, but this one is just a little bit easier, a little bit cleaner, and just makes the game flow a little smoother. The cards are really interesting because like the first one had like these dots on the cards. And you see 1, 2, 3 dots. And this one is very, very clear. It's like, no, dude, there are 3 cards. See these images of cards, and the number 3 is 3 cards. And so almost everything has been better in this Italian release. But I gotta say that the player shields of the original Japanese game are a million times better. And I say this because, man, I guess the end flaps are a lot longer, so it's a lot more stable. Whereas the Italian version, the flaps are a little bit shorter, and they just tend to fall a lot. And if you're in a room with strong AC, they're just gonna fall all the time. Oh, someone put on a ceiling fan, you're dead. So here's the shield here. So what we did is instead of putting the shield like this, we put the shield like this, and then we can kind of see the components underneath, and it was a lot more sturdy. This way, it's just you didn't get to see, well, you didn't see this right side up. So there is that, and that is kind of a little bit of a problem, and I kind of wish this was a little bit longer, but if you just hold it like this, it makes sense. You don't get the benefit of this player aid, but personally, in my opinion, I hate player shields, and I hate it when there's stuff on the player shields. I understand that it makes sense, like it makes sense, but every time there's information on the player shield, I end up doing the thing I like the least, and that's leaning and hunching in a game, and I don't like doing that. Also, you know, once you're a couple of turns in, you're gonna totally forget about this and just remember it all in here, so this won't be a problem. And I kind of just prefer that this was flattened out like this, or these were a little bit longer, so that way it's a little more stable. Also, the introduction of the kaiju card that just randomly appears makes the game just a lot more fun. And I think that's a really, really interesting choice there. Because it's very rare they're gonna burn through the whole deck and then before the Godzilla comes out. So it's nice that he's gonna come out a little bit earlier. And you don't know when Godzilla's gonna come out. He's gonna come out early, he's gonna come out late. He might not even come out at all. So there are all of these improvements that were made in the game, and I think the project manager or whoever, the team behind this, did an excellent job, and they deserve a big round of applause because they saw the game, realized the potential, made these upgrades and changes to the development, and now the components just, it's like a chef's kiss on a already fantastic pizza. Now, I do gotta say though that I do like the Godzilla piece in the original Japanese version more than the one with the eyeball in the Italian version. And that's weird. That's a subjective thing, but I had to get that off my chest, and I have to be honest. Also, I feel kind of sad, and this is so finicky. Like, I mean, it's nice that you have a CEO car, and it's quite funny because the CEO doesn't take the train, obviously. But I kind of wish that all the different players had a different kind of car for their CEO. I just think that would have been a little cool, like a nice little touch. Like everyone has a different car, but instead everyone has the same car and looks kind of limo-ish. So Yeah, I get it. But I will say that there is a problem that both versions have, and there isn't a solo variant of the game. And I really, really wish there were. And I'm hoping that somehow the Italian version comes up with a workable solo version of the game, because the puzzle in this game is so much fun. Segue into the review, because this puzzle, like I said, is fun. And it is still, we're already in September, it is still my favorite game from Asia this year. So let's talk a little bit about why that is. First off, I love pick up and deliver games, and I know that if you are not into pick up and deliver games, then I usually say that this game won't sway you, but I think this game might sway you. It's that good. And that's because a lot of pick up and deliver games have a very long table presence. Like they might be there for 2 hours or an hour and a half, and they can be quite long. This one is quite short. It's usually in and off the table in under an hour. And because of that, I would recommend it anyway. Just try it. But what I love about this game is that you are in each other's faces so much, and it is a mean game. It can be a very mean game. It can be a chill game, but most of the time it's going to be mean, because you need to put your track in front of everyone else. So that way when someone uses your track, you're drawing cards. And when you draw cards, you got a lot of flexibility, and you can feel that pain when you don't have that flexibility. So having your track there and forcing people to use your track is so much in your benefit. And most of the time, people aren't going to go out of the way to build track to avoid giving you cards, because they want to use those actions for something else. I also really love the Mancala aspect of the pick up and deliver, that you just pick up everything and then you Mancala drop everything onto a destination of your choice. Like you could be anywhere you want. You could stop anywhere you want. And if you are there, if you are forcing yourself to be in the way of that opponent, then you're forcing your opponent to give you points. And I find that to be so interesting, because instead of just a regular pick up and delivery game, it's like, oh, you took all those goods A. I guess I don't have any goods of A. I got to go somewhere else. Instead, it's more like, well, I have the shop A in different places along your route, and you're going to have to give it to me. So I really love this concept of being in the way of your opponents through the roads, and they're giving you cards, or through stores that you eventually develop into department stores that just suck up all their deliveries. And it's just so interesting. And I love that you're trying to get your stores in a perfect little line that you could just feed them and constantly be in that line, and you want to try and interrupt that line any way you can, be it with your own stores or be it with your own roads. And doing that and being in each other's faces is where the game really, really sings. One other thing that I do have to mention is that I've played this quite a bit now, and it's really interesting that some routes I see happen quite often, and some routes just completely come out of nowhere and change. So like the overall network of the subway looked different from each game. Not completely different, but just different enough that made me realize, like, wow, this has changed a lot in this game. Now, there are some strategies that persist from game to game to game, such as being the first person to develop a department store, or being the second person to get a department store. Getting a department store early and getting those wild scoring tokens is huge, because they give you so much more flexibility later down the line. Another thing that I really enjoyed about my plays is that you begin to realize that the count of the tokens, how it's not perfectly even, and how you need to emphasize that. It's like, oh, there are a lot more of these, or I got to get more of these. So for example, there are a lot of people who want to eat, but there aren't many people who want electronics and books, which is sad. More people should read. But it's interesting that you want to grab these and those, and knowing how to constantly get sets and telling yourself over and over again, it's like, hey, I see what you're doing, but remember to get sets. Remember to get sets. That's how you win the game. And it's just so fascinating how that forces you to build your track in other ways that you weren't initially intending. And seeing that story arc of the game, of going from get into department stores as fast as you can, building out track to interrupt everyone else's as quick as you can, and then slowly, where you're slowly getting to a point where everyone's just picking up things and then dropping them off, picking up things and dropping them off, and it's just so engaging. And even when it's not your turn, you're always engaged in what the other players are doing, because at any moment, these people from these customers can go from one district to another, and you have to be ready for that and be prepared. And knowing and seeing where all your opponents are building their stores and how they're laying out your track forces you to think about how to interrupt them as efficiently as possible. And so I really love the puzzle there that's always engaging, even when it's not your turn. And I really want to say that having that CEO and Godzilla both be in the game is by far the only way I'm ever going to play the game. But I like that you have control of the CEO, so you're gaining more wild cards. That gives you a little bit more flexibility. But the Godzilla is getting in the way of your opponents. Oh, they have the store here. They have two stores in this district. Godzilla's going there, and they're not going to be able to deliver there. And it's really nice to kind of force that into your opponents and getting them trapped there. And I've seen this time and time again where the new players that I play the game with, they're like, you just burned 3 cards for a while? That seems crazy. Why would you do that? And later on in the game, those same players are like, drop 3 for a while doing this, drop 3 for a while doing that. And it becomes apparent like you really need those actions. And if you don't have the card to do it, you're dropping 3 just to get a wild, just to get that delivery action, because you need that move action and you need it now before someone steals those customers. So I'm raving on and on about this, but this game deserves a lot of attention. It's a fantastic game, fantastic production, and it deserves more attention, and you deserve to play such an awesome game. On Cardboard East, I play games from Asia and share what I find. And when I find bangers like this, I need to share them with as many people as I can, because I want to play this game more often. And if I'm sitting at a table and everyone else knows how to play already, it's gold. It's gold. This game is fantastic. It's going to be hard to find. I'm not sure how easy the Italian version is, and it's going to be released at retail, I believe, in Q4 this year. But I don't know if someone's going to pick it up, if someone's not. It's not even going to be at Spiel. So this is a game that's going to be hard to find. And whether you're playing the Japanese version or the Italian version, both are going to be winners. In fact, you could even get rid of the fireworks token, just get 4 cars, and those are pretty easy to find, like 4 micro machines, and just stick them on there. And then that's your CEO's car. And you could play with the Italian rule set, because there's nothing different, at least not that I've seen. Once again, my name's Jay. I play board games from Asia and share what I find with all of you. If you like this video and you want to see more of these, please like and subscribe, and you won't miss out on the next video. If you want to help this channel grow even more, please consider joining our Patreon. I'm going to put a link up here to a video that I think is really rad and that you should probably check out. See you there.